Greetings fellow ukuleleans, Jeff Weinberger coming at you here with a new ukulele tutorial. I'd like to talk today about secondary dominance, and that is a harmony phenomenon. It's a chord thing, and what secondary dominants are they're chords outside of the key that the song is in. A song will generally be in a particular key and usually stays in one key, but every once in a while you might see a chord that's outside of that key. And oftentimes those chords outside of the key are called secondary dominants. So a dominant chord is usually a chord like a seventh chord, or a dominant seventh chord to be more specific, that leads to a tonic chord, or it might just lead to another chord in the key. And so an example of that I just played, 5 foot 2 Eyes of Blue, it's in the key of C. You have a C chord, but then you have an E7 chord. E7 is not in the key of C. We know that the key of C normally has an E minor chord, and so E7 sounds quite different from E minor and serves a very different function. The E7 chord, kind of the function of that is to lead to the A7 chord in the song. That A7 chord's function is to lead to the next chord, which is D7. The D7's function is to lead to G7. And G7's normal function, as it always is to lead to C, the tonic chord, the one chord. So many of those chords are not in the key. The only two chords that were in the key were C and G7. But like the second chord there, E7, not in the key. Its function is to get to the A or A7 chord. And so what we would call that is 5 of 6. And 6 because C, D, E, F, G, A. A is the 6th degree of a C major scale. It's finger number 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the E7 chord is 5 of A. How do I know that? Well, let's start on A. A, B, C, D, E. Voila, there it is, 5 fingers. So it's the 5 of 6. Now that might sound complicated to you. You might not like that level of music theory. But if you want, just think of it as an interesting chord that isn't in the key that generally is going to lead to a chord that is in the key. Sometimes to another secondary dominant though. Sometimes they create these cycles. They have one chord leading to another, and a bunch of those chords are not in the key. And 5 foot 2 Eyes of Blue is one of those songs. C chord, going to an E7 chord, not in the key. Going to an A7 chord, not in the key. Normally A minor is the chord that's in that key. And then that A7 is leading to a D7, not in the key. It's normally a D minor chord. And then that leads to a G7, which is in the key, and that is the dominant chord of the key of C. That's the 5 chord. C, D, E, F, G. It is indeed the 5 chord, and we're not doing anything. We're not altering it. We're not making it different. It's just notes of the key. All those notes are in the C major scale. And that leads to a C chord. So C to E7 to A7 to D7 to G7 to C. Now there's a lot more about 5 foot 2 Eyes of Blue that I could explain about that cycle, the circle of fifths and the cycle of fourths and that sort of thing. We won't get into that today. I do not want to confuse you. I don't want to lay too much music theory on you. But just know that secondary dominance, the topic that we're talking about today, secondary dominants generally are outside of the key, but they lead to chords oftentimes that are in the key. Sometimes in roundabout ways, sometimes in direct ways. Here's a direct way. You probably know Hey Good Lookin' by Hank Williams. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? I'm free and I'm ready, etc. So I'm doing it in G. So in the key of G, the second chord we went to in Hey Good Lookin' was A7. A7 is not in the key of G. It should be A minor. The second chord of a major key is always a minor chord. And so by using A7, that creates a little tension. That gives you a note C sharp that's outside of the key. But it does resolve to a chord that is in the key, which is D7. D7 is the 5 chord in the key of G. And that perfectly leads to the G chord. So Hey Good Lookin' is a good example of a song that has one chord outside of the key, one secondary dominant. So When you listen to a chord progression that's in the key, or diatonic, that's known as diatonic, C, E minor, A minor, for instance, in the key of C, sounds like this. Very pleasing to the ear, very melodic and consonant. There's no sharp edges to that. But if we take that E minor and change it to E7, like 5'2" Eyes of Blue does, check it out. That's a real different sound. So secondary dominants add a little bit of interest and a little bit of tension and resolution, and something known as cadences, a chord resolving to another chord, a cadence, a place of rest, where you have tension and resolution, tension and resolution, tension and resolution. So those tension chords, those tend to be secondary dominants. There is a whole lot more to this. There's something called bass motion that we could talk about. There's something called tensions or extensions, where you make the chords even fancier than just plain old seventh chords. We won't get into that today. I just want to talk about raw and simple secondary dominants. So there's two examples. You had 5'2" Eyes of Blue, which I will link to down below. I'll link to a nice song sheet of that so you can see it. And I might as well link to the Mid-Coast Uke song sheet that we have in the key of G of Hey Good Lookin' by Hank Williams, so you can see that. And then if you're looking for other secondary dominants, look no further than Elton John. He writes songs that have tons of secondary dominants and uses them in very, very interesting ways. Look no further than the Beatles. Look no further than country music. Look no further than jazz, Broadway show tunes from the 30s and 40s. Jazz standards, the Great American Songbook, a lot of secondary dominants. Check out things like Autumn Leaves, All the Things You Are, The Nearness of You, any of those great old standards. So secondary dominants are a really interesting topic, but I just wanted to kind of get our big toe dipped into the pool of that. I didn't want to go too deep into it. So hopefully you're with me so far, and I will, like I said, leave those links down below, and you'll be able to check out those examples for yourself. And maybe we'll have a part 2 of this. Maybe we'll go further into the world of secondary dominants. I will make this handout available that I was reading from. I'll put that up on Patreon so you can check that out. So naturally there'll be a link down below for that. And I hope you subscribe. I hope you like. And I do hope that you click the notify bell so that whenever I come out with a new video, you're the first to know about it. And I will catch you later, ukulele people. Bye-bye.